Yeah.
So when it says like your name, like can it be like does it need to be like my name, like it needs to say Janelle, or can it say?
It can say your
It
business
can
name.
say the business name counts
Yeah.
as.
If you have a business that's with the Secretary of State's office,
Yeah.
then you can put your business name,
Okay.
and you put your contact information. Any other questions? And I apologize about not having one of our folks here. Most people will probably fall into the home-based vendor rule. They're either selling at a farmer's market or a roadside stand. There's a few people who do wholesale, and not a lot of people are set up to sell retail. And that would be you having your own store and selling your honey like that. So, any other question? Yes.
So I have these at someone else's property.
Yes.
I bottle the honey and give them some for their use, but I have my label on it. If they turn around and sell it,
Then you'd be a wholesaler.
even though it was,
If somebody is selling it under your label,
okay,
and you're not selling it directly to the consumer, then you're not a home-based vendor.
okay,
So to be a home-based vendor, you have to have that direct interaction with the customer.
okay.
So you're one or the other. You're either a home-based vendor, you're retail, or you're wholesale. You can't really be two things at once. So in that situation, if you're giving it to somebody and they're selling it under your label to somebody else, then you're a wholesaler.
So let's say she screwed up and she didn't, she was good selling as a home-based vendor and it should be retail or whatever you call it. What's the penalty if she gets caught?
What's the penalty? There's really not any honey police out there, very honestly. So it would be a situation if you were doing it and you were identified and you were asked not to do it, and then if you continued to do it and said, whatever, I'm still going to go ahead and do it, then there's civil penalties that fall in. If it's just a mistake, you're not going to get fined for an offense like that. So, yes, sir.
So we at the club harvest the honey out of the club hive, give it to Cool Creek Nature Center, and then they sell it. Who's on the hook there?
I think we're okay because we bottled it in a commercial kitchen under my license. So I'm a wholesaler. So, any other questions? You only allowed 2 questions.
I'll just okay, so I guess, is this something new or I just wasn't aware of it? So for my honey, I need to have the date that it was processed?
Isn't that ridiculous? Yes.
Okay, is that something new?
Yes.
Okay, just making sure.
January 1st, 2020.
They don't distinguish between your products as a home-based vendor and any other products. So all the things that fall under the
Because I do that with my baked goods already.
yeah.
I
So
realize
so
that honey
so
comes
they don't distinguish between your baked goods, honey, maple syrup,
yeah, I was gonna say make
things that really doesn't matter. You have a data processing. They don't distinguish between that. So the things that are on that list are the same things you'd have for your baked goods.
okay. I understood. And then
So
you have the whole, like,
I would say, I don't think I've ever seen anybody put a date of processing on their honey label.
well, I don't have that on there. I didn't realize. And I
Yeah,
don't
I
have
mean,
this
I mean,
product as home produce either.
prior to this, you go down to the state fair when they're selling their honey, and not very many people have the indication that it's a
Home produced.
home produced is often left off, and also the data processing is often left off.
Yeah, and I need to have no added ingredients on there too? If I'm already saying 100% pure.
If it's just honey, then you're
Somewhere I had seen that if you have 2
If it's just honey, if it's anything else besides honey, if you're adding,
Cinnamon for cream honey.
then you have to list cinnamon. And I can say, I am not the licensing person, but
So, like, if my thing's not 10-point fight, like, how are they gonna be pretty picky about that too?
you know, it's that same thing. I mean, I don't know that they go out there with their little ruler and check to see that it's 10.
Well, they're coming to my farmer's market.
I think the intent is that it,
I know, I already use my labels for my food, but
I mean, the intent is that you have all the information on there and people can read it.
yeah.
It's not necessarily, they're trying to penalize you by saying 10-point font or whatever. They just want to make sure that the information's there and that it's legible. Yes, Larry?
So if you infuse your honey with something, is it a different product, or you just have to list 2 ingredients?
I'm sorry?
If you infuse your honey with something, like CBD oil, or mint, or rose.
Yeah, you have to list. If it's anything besides honey, then you have to list the ingredients.
But that's the only additional extra requirement, there's no extra.
Well, I don't believe you can be a home-based vendor and
So you'd have to have your wholesale license.
and infuse.
Eagle Creek, they make rose honey. It's very good. Rose honey is good.
I know in previous years at the state fair was that they would only accept pure
Sorry.
honey from home-based vendors, because once you add,
Does not work.
that puts you outside the home-based vendors laws, and you then have to be licensed.
Well, this guy's huge.
Doesn't make it right.
But he,
Infuse it with rose, like rose.
yeah, but he may also have his wholesale or retail license too. I mean, I see his honey other places, so I don't know for sure, but I'm guessing that he has his wholesale license.
He was at the seed
Yeah, he
swap.
does.
He was at the Hamilton County seed swap.
Yeah. And getting your wholesale certificate is not difficult. You just, you have to, you can use a commercial kitchen at your church, you set up, and it's for the bottling. It's not extracting, it's for the bottling. So you can rent kitchen space, you can use a church kitchen if it meets the requirements of a commercial kitchen. So it's not difficult to meet that requirement. If you think anything else, we can submit questions on,
Barry will be here, and
Facebook.
you can bushwhack him later.
yeah, okay.
All right, thanks, Barry.
Yep, there we go.
He's on.
Is the audio okay?
You give us a volume check?
Is it okay? Check?
Casey,
Is it good?
do it again?
I got this here. Look a little closer. Is it okay now? Good here. Good here? Thumbs up?
Mid-range.
Okay, so selling honey. So it's something most beekeepers strive for. And so the question is, there's a typical setup. Susie's honey, that's what we sell. So you can go to the next slide. So how did we get there? And being a beekeeper, it's like burning money. Well, it really is burning money. We all, we're pitching money out. We're buying hives. We're buying suits, frames. You have some place to keep all your bees. And then you get all this done, and you have a great summer for your bees. And then you have winter losses, and next spring you have swarming, and you're spending more money. But eventually you get to a point where you have bees with honey. And quickly adds up that you end up with quite a bit of honey normally. So you think things are great then, and then you realize, oh, it's just a whole nother process of spending and learning and doing a lot of extra work. So you're buying extractor, bottles, labels, and with honey, we all know it's heavy lifting. Next slide. So levels of selling. I just did kind of a rough outline of what I see as levels of selling. And first stage, you know, the beginners start out and you get, you know, 2 to 5 hives and 2 to 6 gallons each one. And it, you know, so you end up with, you know, at $10 a pound. If you get 120 pounds your first year, that's $1,200 if you sell all of it. But the bigger problem is when you first start out, at least we'd talk about being beekeepers, and everybody's like, oh, you're a beekeeper. I'd love to have some of your honey. Can you give me some? And you give some to friends, and you give some to relatives, and next thing you know, you're just giving out honey like crazy, and everybody loves it when it's free. And so that's as time goes on, I think that happens less, but people expect that. Second stage, say less than 50 gallons. And I put kind of, you know, you're probably 10 to 25 hives. And at $10 a pound, that's my common reference for selling, is always $10 a pound. Some people sell it for less, some people sell it for more. But, you know, there you're up to $6,000. And the reason I mention that is I always figure whatever I'm selling, about half of what I sell I can spend in equipment and buy new stuff with. And so it's a way of helping fund new things. Third stage, greater than 100 gallons. And, you know, there you're talking about 1,200 pounds or so, and you're stepping up again, maybe 25 to 50 hives. But all of a sudden you're getting up, you know, $12,000. You're starting to get into some serious money here. But at this point, you're probably starting to look at having multiple yards, and you're also probably starting to think about a honey shack, or I have a half of an airport hangar where I keep a lot of my bee stuff, and half of a 4-car garage at my house. So it's cluttered up quite a bit. And then the commercial guys are, you know, way beyond anything I've ever even thought about. But you can see, you know, if you can really sell it for that price, you make a lot of money. But a lot of them sell honey at bulk rates, and so it's a lot less there. Here you can see we also sell at Joe's Butcher Shop. So there's the honey sitting above the meat at Joe's, and honey on the shelf at Joe's. Next. So starting out, selling honey, to me it was a huge step. And you can see pictures, there's pictures of all the bottles I figured out, okay, these are the sizes and numbers I need to fill for the night, and then after they're filled and labeled and everything. Thursday night's my bottling night and labeling night to get ready for Friday night market and Saturday morning market. But you can see, first you got to get the honey, you need extractors, bottling and a bottle night. I have 11 different bottles now. When I first started out, I had one bottle, the 12-ounce bear. That was what I sold everything in for a couple years. Labels, credit card reading. If you're going to do particularly a farmer's market, square is the standard at the farmer's market. You'll need insurance, and it's not expensive. It's typically like $20 a month. I have what's that company, Liberty Mutual with the bird thing? I have those guys for my insurance. It's not mandatory, but it helps a lot of things if you register as an LLC in Indiana. It's not that hard to do. And if you're going to set up a bank account, which is really, it starts making everything a lot easier. You get a bank account, you got a credit card or debit card, you got checks, and then all of a sudden it gets easier and easier to separate the finances. And you need a federal tax ID number to do that. Business cards, website, all these state and local regulations to deal with. And then the other things here, where are you going to sell it? So getting your honey into a business is difficult, mostly because there's already so many people that went around and hit up all the stores and vendors and got their honey in there. It's difficult to find a store that isn't already selling honey a lot of times now. Farmers market, I tried for like 2 years before I finally got lucky, and Matt Evans, who used to be a member here, told me, hey, I'm moving, and Zionsville's going to have an opening for the honey vendor. And so I turned in my application, and when I turned it in, the lady said, oh, sorry, I've got my vendor. Matt turned in his resignation. She called up a week later, and I got in. It was who you know. And so that got me in there. We've been there now 3 years. And then Lineage Market used to be called, was it Normandy Farms? Normandy Farms. And I set probably a year and a half out there where a lot of the markets, the sales were horrible. You'd sit there a time and sell, $35 a honey or $50 a honey. But the guys that bought this place, they're hemp growers now. So it's Lineage Hemp Farm. And they were investing money like crazy. This year they finally got a market manager, same person that runs Benford, and the market grew like crazy. So it was really good this year. I had a couple of really hard years of sit around and sell 5 bottles or 3 bottles or something for a whole morning sitting there. And then stores are also, I think, difficult. We're in one, Joe's Butcher Shop, that's the only one. And the beauty of stores is they tend to help level out your sales. Otherwise, the farmers markets are like these intense sales in the summer. They start in May and end September, October, and then there's nothing the rest of the year from them. Next. The product is honey. So if you're going to sell your honey, first and foremost, it must taste good. I mean, we have people every week that come around. I mean, it's the best feeling when people come by and they're like, bought your honey last week, love it, tastes great. Or, they bought it and they're back this week buying another bottle. It feels good, but it needs to be clean, no particles, no crystallization. And you need to keep it kind of relative over the year, too. I have 1 yard, Wild's Apple Farm, that gives beautiful, like this, amber, great tasting kind of medium honey that everybody likes. And then I have 2 other yards that are at airports, and the honey looks like water. And the first time I harvested it, I thought, oh my God, this is horrible. But it tastes like honey. Still sold it, but people are like, that last jar of honey I bought from you, it was really sweet and light, and they can tell a difference. So bottles must be clean, no sticky, anywhere, anytime. That comes from the nurse to make sure everything's clean. And the way I can tell, often my car, there's so much bee stuff in my van, and honey spilled on the floor, and buckets of sugar water that's spilled. If my window's set open, I'll have hundreds of bees around my van in hours. And on the table, though, like this where I'm selling, never have a bee. I can have 500 bees in my car right behind me, and there won't be any bees touching the jars. Bottle label, you got to have it straight, must look professional. Even if it's done by yourself, amateur work's still acceptable. Managing inventory is always a big deal because Thursday night I'm going around doing inventory. How much do I have left? How much do I need to bottle? Square will track all that if you enter what you sell, so you know what's selling the most of and everything. So Square is a very good tool. I'm using it more and more. Sorry about this last one. I noticed the jar over here. No handwritten labels if you're going to be in the market. No funny names like bee vomit labels. Sorry about that over there. So there's probably some labels that probably shouldn't be out in the market like that. It just hit me as one that I've seen. But it is a raffle item. And it will be a keepsake. Next slide. Avenues of sales. friends and family, and it's always a challenge there of gifting versus sales. You know, it's, I don't know, it's just always a battle there. A station, if you can set up a station somewhere at your work. Susie set up a station in the beginning at the entrance to Our Lady of Mount Carmel School. It was just a table, a tablecloth, and honey in a box for money, and honor system. And she'd sell, I don't know what, 10 bottles a week.
The thing is, you would be surprised how many people like local honey if they know that it's legitimate local honey.
Yeah.
Because I have children with allergies, I serve as a school nurse. I use it for cough, you know, like it's actually better than medicine, you know, for cough, for a child. And so there's no drug in that, so like the mothers love it for the fact that you can give them a teaspoon of honey and it really does help their cough.
Yeah. So it's a good place, if you can get any kind of place like that. Stores, they're harder to get into. They want clean, consistent product that basically sells itself and keeps repeat customers. You go in, you'll make a deal. They normally handle everything then. You just show up with boxes of honey, and the only thing special you have to do is create and track invoices, which Square also does. So you can create invoices in Square also. Farmers market, that's the main one everybody knows about. They're very hard to get in my opinion. And probably a first one, you know, if you find a midweek kind of market, you can get into those often. Or if you find a market that's just starting up for the first time, you can get in. But like I said, I tried over 2 years until I got lucky. They normally have one vendor per market, and you have to attend every week. If you start missing too many weeks, I mean, you know, 2 or 3 weeks, they'll probably let somebody else in next year. And so it's you really have to be faithful on your attendance. Carmel, I know, has 2 vendors. The Carmel Farmers Market's so huge. It's about a 3-hour period of intense selling opportunity. And like Susie says, you know, people are walking by, just a simple local honey will attract most people because they've heard of local honey and they want to know it's local, it's raw, it's unfiltered, it's unpasteurized. There's like a checkbox of half a dozen things, and then they're happy. Have a story to tell. Kind of like what she was doing there with her kids at school. But, you know, as you're selling, have a story as you're selling to tell the people about the, you know, they love hearing things like the bees kicking the drones out in the fall. The men don't get to spend winter in the hive. The ladies kick them all out and they all die. And different stories, people like hearing that. But it's real simple. Tablecloth, 10x10 campy chairs, money box, card reader. And then remember, you're outside for the most part, so you're in rain and wind conditions, except for the winter markets. Chain stores, Lowe's, Kroger's, things like that, that's a really big step. I actually have a couple I'm looking at now, but they have situations where you normally have to bring your product to headquarters or some central place, present your product and all the selling and how you support them. And if you get in, then you're selling at maybe 7, 10, 15 stores. So at some point in the future, I'd like to do that. I have a couple targeted. And then restaurants, particularly the breakfast restaurants, most offer honey. And they typically buy in bulk and then pour into small dishes. And we have a couple of small restaurants around we're going to try and get into. The other thing that's kind of surprising, there's special events like Zionsville Arbor Day. I've done that one and sold honey. There's an event downtown called Holistic Healing, and they invited me. I didn't even know what they were about. They invited me and went, and it was a good day of selling honey. But there's a lot of one-day events that are really good to get in and sell your honey. Next slide. So final thoughts and resources. Starting out, spend time on what size, shape, and material bottle you'll sell. You know, is it a jar? Is it plastic? Our jar, bear, plastic or glass. I use Sailor bottles for the plastics and Fillmore for the glass. Also factors a little bit in how you arrange your table. We try and do recycle with the glass, but we probably get back 1 out of every 20 that we sell. But people like that. They'll be like, oh yeah, glass, you'll recycle that, great. That's why I'll get the glass, and we never see it again. Farmer market setup, you can make the banners you see on the back. They're real easy to put some clip art in and your logo and stuff. And they're, you know, single-sided's maybe $25, $30, and a double-sided's maybe $50. And you can order it online there, and it comes in a week or so. Canopy, the Irmax 10 by 10 seems to be the farmer market standard. And then, of course, your table and tablecloths and lay all the products. Labels is a big one. Was for me a challenge. I ended up using online labels, and they have a program called Maestro Designer that's really easy to use. But you order the labels, and they come in box of like 50 sheets. And then you can just take these to the printer and get them printed. The Maestro outputs like a PDF. It looks like this. So you take the PDF file to the print shop, and they just print them right out. So it's very easy to do, and I think they look pretty well. This is another one kind of controversial maybe. Honey, your honey, and another local source for when you run out. Because if you build up your business and you've got a store online and you've been selling at the farmer's market, and all of a sudden, you know, your bees don't produce maybe as much honey as you hoped for this year, and come March, April, you're starting to run out, it's nice to have somebody that has a honey that is similar in flavor, similar in color, and everything to yours, so that you can keep your sales going until you get harvesting your own honey again. Stores, like I said, I just use boxes. There's a fellow vendor at one of the farmer markets that gives me her boxes from her jars. They're 12-bottle boxes, and they work well. I mentioned the invoices and tracking sales. In the farmers markets, there'll be probably a third to half they'll do credit cards is about what we find. So squares used a lot, and you have nice simple readers like this that are very touch-free where they can just walk up, put their card in, it's a Bluetooth connection, and do the transaction. It'll also take iPay and I think Google Pay. Is that it? And one last thing I'll say, the farmers markets, I mean, we've met some of the nicest people at the farmers markets, and the fellow vendors are so nice, and you end up getting to know them, and you barter and trade products. And I have one vegetable guy, and so all year long he's been giving me whatever vegetable I want. I keep a log, and at the end of the year he wants a gallon of honey. So, and I know I'm up in the, I've got a lot of vegetables. But you meet the nicest people there. The customers are the nicest people. And it's just such a feel-good thing when you come by and you have people talk about how good your honey is, or kind of like tonight, there's a special guest appearance by Susie. They're always, a lot of the markets I work by myself, and so if Susie shows up, they're always like, they look at the banner behind us, and they're like, and they look at her and they're like, are you really Susie? So it's made kind of a celebrity out of her. That's about it. Anything you want to say?
Well, I just want to say that my husband works really hard to make this go. And we've been doing this for 8 years. So it's not something where, you know, you're going to get rich quick. Okay.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure you know. My husband is an engineer and I'm a nurse. So we're a good team together for the fact that I'm fairly compulsive. And so when he goes to leaving honey and propolis all over the place, you know, I talk to him about it. And, you know.
No sticky
Yeah.
anywhere.
So when it comes to bottling your honey, yeah, you cannot have anything sticky on your bottle, okay? And, I mean, honey in and of itself is antibacterial, so there's really no need to worry about, about any contamination, really. But Leroy, being an engineer, had started out in our garage with a food quality white trash can, and he had to leave town and go work. And so we had 20 gallons of honey in that white trash can in the garage. Well, lo and behold, we had about 20,000 bees in the garage. So no one got stung, not one person got stung, but they ate 20 gallons of honey. And so it was from the guy at 116th and Town Road. His bees ate all that honey. So then the next year I said, okay, we're getting an extractor. So then we had to spend a couple $1,000 to get an extractor. So you see where, it takes money. You have to buy the equipment. And so it's not just, it doesn't just happen. And it is extremely hard work. So he follows Ian Steckler up in Canada. And so he thinks that he wants a forklift next.
I want that machine that lifts the boxes that he has, that thing. If you've seen that.
Yeah. So,
I want that.
I really thought, I don't know, I thought it was really funny. We brought our 2 hives back from Tennessee. His mother lived to be 94 on the farm in Tennessee, and we put a couple hives down there so she could just watch them and, And anyway, so we ended up bringing those hives back to Indiana. That's how we got it started, was bringing those hives back. We brought them in our van, our Odyssey 2000 van. We moved 2 beehives in there. So that's, I'm just saying that Leroy thinks out of the box. Yeah. He's an engineer.
They were hives from JR. We got the frames, the hives, the suit, everything from JR that got us started. And then we put the beehives down there in Tennessee.
Yeah, and I'll never forget, he got me a bee suit, and I said, why'd you do that?
Okay. Any questions?
Anyway.
Yeah.
So for the honey bottles, is there specific ones that sell more than others?
The 1 pound, or 2 pound, I'd say the 2 pound.
Yeah, the 1 pound we have at the Joe's store also, but it sells a lot. And then as customers, first off, they'll buy like a $5 or $8 or $2 little bottle, and then next week or the week after, they're back. The 2 pounds jars are our biggest sellers. So the 2 pounds. Surprising.
And sometimes I get large orders. I have a dentist that's from Guatemala, and she uses honey for all of her sugar. So she'll buy $200 worth of honey, and I'll bring it to her house, make her.
She buys 10 of those at a time.
Buy 10 2-pounders, so. But then she uses honey for all of her, that's the only sugar that she uses.
Only sugar in her house.
Yeah.
It's good for.
She gets free samples for customers.
Huh?
She probably gets free samples. She's a dentist.
She's a dentist, yeah.
She is a dentist, and
Free samples for customers.
Yeah.
it is sugar, it is sugar.
Still sugar.
So,
Even though it's glucose and fructose.
yeah.
Any other questions? Okay, thanks.
We'll take about a 5-minute break. Chance to stretch your legs, buy a raffle ticket, go to the bathroom, and then we'll continue on. We've got a couple more speakers.
This one says
up next. You get a mic. You get a mic pack.
Okay, folks, we're going to get started again. By some unknown freak of nature, we happen to actually be on schedule. I'm not sure how that happened. But we will carry on schedule. So after Leroy gave us a great talk, and the next person up to talk to us, Mr. Bill Beaver, who joins us every month without fail from Kokomo. He's been a great member of this club for quite a few years, and he's also been selling honey for quite a few years. So he's going to tell us how he does it.
Okay, well, the difference between me and Leroy is I'm not anywhere near as big an operation as Leroy is. For one thing, I'm retired. so I'm not looking for that. I've been approached several times about doing the farmer's market. Of course, I'm from Kokomo, for the people who don't know. And I've turned it down simply because of what Leroy said. It's a heck of a commitment. You have to be there every Saturday morning from 9 to 1. And I'm retired. I'm not looking for that. So now I've been messing with bees for probably about 12 years. It all started with a swarm on a chimney at my house. And that was it, and it's really progressed. But in the last couple of years, prior to this one, I run about 20 to 25 hives. Well, I had some losses. This past year, I run 15. I just, getting some age on me. I don't want to work that hard. So now, one thing that I want to touch base a little bit on Barry. He gave a thing on Hamilton County. I'm out of Howard County. Okay, now, before I get into how I go about selling my honey, one of the processes I had to get into was basically, I'm going to say, I had to get where I was legal, okay, because I didn't want to do the farmer's market, and I just want to drop my honey off and somebody else sells it, and that's it. So I started the process about 3 years ago of how do I get legal? Okay. Well, I went contact the health board, and then the next thing, I made a connection, and I actually extract my honey and bottle it in a coffee shop. They have a kitchen, a licensed kitchen. So I used their kitchen. I didn't have to spend the $15,000 to make the commercial kitchen. Now, for a backup, I also have a catering place in Kokomo called Elite, and he will let me bottle there also. And he has a big commercial kitchen. So, but that's where I do my extraction and bottling. Okay, now this is a permit I get from I have to have a retail food establishment permit, okay, in order for me to sell wholesale. And that's for my county. Now, this permit here is a lengthy process that you have to go through to get there. But, you know, I was pretty patient that year. I wasn't real bad, so I went after it. The permit is $175. It's good for 1 year. Now, it lets me sell a lot of other places other than just the coffee shop. The coffee shop I'm hooked up with is right on the courthouse square in downtown Kokomo. It's called Mojo's, and they use my honey in a lot of their drinks. And I'm real fortunate. I got some guys that they stop there every morning and every evening, and they're addicted to coffee, and they have to have honey in it. So it's unbelievable the amount of bottles that them guys, you know. I think they're thinking about charging them guys extra for the honey. So, but when I started down the process to get my permit to be what I call legal, they gave me this checklist I had to go through. The first thing I had to do was contact the Howard County Planning Commission. Okay, and they told me, no, there's nothing we need to do for you. Okay, and then the health department. And then I had to contact the City of Kokomo Division of Building and Code Service. They said, no, I said, we don't care. You got hives, you're good. I am in the city limits of Kokomo, by the way. But I live on the north side. I have about right at 15 acres out there, but I'm right on the edge of town. Well, I'm kind of grandfathered in. They kind of, you know, even though because they just annexed me 3 years ago, so anyway. But everybody knows where the beehives are out on Faith Road. You know, so, okay, the next thing I do, I had to go to the City of Kokomo, the permit office. And they said, like he was going to get a building permit or electric permit or something. I said, oh, no, we don't have any permits for beekeepers. You know, you're good. So I got around that. Now, the one that I thought was really crazy was I had to contact the fire department. Okay. And I had to ask him if I was required to have a certificate of occupancy. And I said, when I had to ask the question, I said, the only thing I can tell you is there's about 80,000 bees for each hive that's occupying it. So if you would like to come and do an inspection, you can. And of course, they turned it down. Now, the other crazy one I got into was the City of Kokomo, the wastewater treatment plant. And of course, they said, no, said there's really nothing there. Said, just don't dump your beeswax down the sewer. You know, I said, okay, no problem. But that's some of the stuff I had to go through in order to qualify for a permit. Now, once I got all that accomplished, I had to meet somebody from the Howard County Health Department where I was going to extract, okay? And they had to actually make a drawing of the kitchen I was going to use for their file. And the lady was real nice, she made that. And then, so they did an inspection to see make sure everything was good. You know, the water was hot enough, whatever. And from there, I had to take, I had one permit. The first little sheet they gave me said, I'm okay, I can do it there. Okay. The next one, I had to call them 2 weeks ahead of time to let them know I was going to extract there. And I said, boy, this is kind of iffy, because I said, sometimes these hives can blow up with honey, and I got to pull it out. I don't know if I can give you 2 weeks. Well, and then the other thing that I tried to do, I still only extract on Sunday evening after the coffee shop closes, okay? From 6 o'clock to however long it takes me, okay? I extract and bottle there. And, but they come, and first couple of times, they come at 6 o'clock Sunday evening, the health board did, and they walked in, and the way I kind of set them up a little bit, because I pulled all my frames, and I put them in hive butlers on Saturday. I made sure all the bees were gone out of them box on Sunday before I even thought about taking them in there. I didn't want to haul bees in a restaurant or a coffee shop, so I made sure they was all out there. And then once I get all my stuff, and I got carts made up, and I stack up my high butters, my extractor, and all equipment. I roll it in the door, and the first thing they do is say, "Oh my gosh, you don't have bees in there, do you?" I said, "Lady, I can't guarantee you there ain't some of them girls still in the boxes," you know. and so they get real jittery with you, but then they look at everything I had, and I had two or three things that my setup that I had made out of wood, and they were not made of stainless, and I had to the next time they came, I had to have this stuff made out of stainless steel. So there is a procedure. But once you clear, they give you that. The only other thing they warned me about was I had a couple people help me, and they have to have a hat on or a hairnet, and they have to wear gloves while we're extracting. That was part of their requirement. And of course, you have a whole list of stuff here they give you that you're supposed to make sure your employees or your helpers abide by. But that's pretty much the essence of what it takes to get a permit out of Howard County anyway. I don't know what it entails down here. Now, some of the places I sell my honey, like I said, I'm located on the northeast corner of Kokomo. And one thing, around the corner from me, there's like a Wendy's and Save-A-Lot grocery store. So we get a lot of traffic up and down my road, back and forth. And I have an old barn there, and I put a big old honey sign on the front of that barn, local honey for sale. And I put another one out down at the other end of the road. And when I first started this operation, extracting honey and selling, all I've ever used is what you see on the table where I use a 1-pound bottle. That's it. It's plastic. You squirt it out. I don't mess with all this other size business. I keep it real simple. But my wife, she wasn't sure that she wanted people bothering her coming up on the front porch to buy honey, But when they come up there and they get the bottle of honey and they handle $10, she has no problem with it. so she had no problem with that at all. Now, some of the, like I said, the main place that kind of pushes my honey for me, besides off my front porch, is the coffee shop I've been mentioning. And I think Larry touched on a little bit. You got to really think out of the box in order to sell honey. You're not going to get a grocery store to sell your honey because they got that Chinese crap for $3 a pound. So they're not looking to give you your $10 a pound. So you're not probably going to do any good there. Now, some of the places that people might not even think of, I sell at a bike shop. In the bike shop, a lot of people that ride bikes, they're looking for the protein. So they do pretty good for me. I do have 3 restaurants in Kokomo that sell my honey, and they do pretty good too. And I also have a pool hall that sells it. And a couple of my biggies each season, each year, one of them was I sold quite a bit of honey at State Fair. Well, they didn't have it this past year, so that impacted my sales. Now, don't get me wrong, this 2020 has been as big a nightmare for me and my sales as it has for the rest of the world, People don't even want to stop at the house and get a bottle of honey, so because of the coronavirus. But it seems like every July, about the time that my honey comes on, we have an outfit up there that starts selling sweet corn, and they're famous for it. They've did it for years, and it's called Daly's Corn. They have 3 produce stands around different areas in Kokomo. I hooked up with them about maybe 4 years ago, and she wasn't sure she even wanted to do it, No, I don't know whether we want to do it or not, because they sell corn and other, produce, tomatoes, whatever. But then she took it on, and I left her about 10 bottles, and they sat there for 2 or 3 days and nothing happened. Didn't sell hardly anything. And then the weekend hit, and I went back Monday and she says, oh my gosh, she said, boy, when them people noticed that, honey, it took off like wildfire out of here. She said, can you bring some more? I said, yeah, I got some more in the truck. So between July, maybe the middle of July to the middle of August, they sell a lot of honey for me because I put it all 3 stands. And but that's some of the places I get to sell my honey. Now, anybody got any questions? Or? Yes.
So if they sold the honey for you, how'd you do it? What was the price break between you and the,
Okay, what I do is
or did you pay her off the honey?
no, well, what I do is if I sell a bottle of honey off my front porch and my wife does whatever, it's $10 for 1 pound bottle. Okay. Now, if I have somebody selling it for me, you know, I let them make $2 a bottle off of it. It's $8 and they get $2 a bottle for the trouble of selling it. So, and I really don't have any always. Now I have a couple of places that when I walk in, I make an invoice out for them. I give them the honey, they give me the money. That's it. I've got a couple of other places that it's on consignment. I put it there, they sell it, and then I get my money. So you have to be willing to work, either way with people, because some people just don't want to risk putting their money out for your product. But Larry?
Are you selling the 1 pound also at the restaurants?
Yes. Yeah. And I've been, I'd say I run 15 hives this summer. And we had 2 great big, heavy extractions this year, which I'm happy with that. And but we didn't. I've been approached by 2 or 3 guys in the restaurant business that they would buy all the honey that I could produce. And what I tell them, I said, you need to contact David Sheffield with Clover Honey is who you need to contact, because you're talking to the wrong guy here. I have no interest in doing anything like that. So.
Do you sell any of the comb, honeycomb?
No, I do sell comb honey also, yes. I tried something a few years ago and it worked for me. I just take a blank frame, in a super frame, and I put a little starter strip up at the top, and then I take some little kish kebab sticks, I call them, and put it down between to divide them, and I just hang it in there, and it's unbelievable what they'll do with that. Them bees will come in there and they'll draw that comb out, fill it up, and you'll have the prettiest comb honey. And I just take a butcher knife and cut it out and put it in a container to sell it. I don't get all this fancy stuff, some of these people get into. But I'll sell comb honey a good 4-inch square for $12. And you go to some of these, like I know up at Kokomo, they're $16 for their comb honey. So I try to keep stuff as reasonable I can. Now, if you walk up on my front porch and I think that you're a senior citizen, you're probably going to get your honey for $8. I do that also. And that confuses my wife sometimes. She don't know whether she's supposed to be selling for 10 or 8. I said, well, you just have to judge that. So, and I'm kind of like Ron Bastion. I've been doing this, I love it, but I've never made any money.
Great job, Bill. Thanks so much. Okay. Wow, we're still on schedule. Who'd have thought? Well, sort of the last thing on the program tonight, we used to joke, I remember sitting around the core group that kind of plans these meetings out and schedules the speakers and all, and we kept saying, what are we going to talk about next month? What are we going to talk about the month after that? First of all, if anybody here would like to be involved in that process, you are more than welcome. The core group is the planning group for this club. We always love to have people who are interested. You're welcome to attend. Just see one of us who are hiding around the perimeter of the meeting afterward, and we'll give you all the details on that. But we were talking about it, and we said, oh, we should talk about mites. And we said, oh, we always talk about mites. We're always talking about mites. Mites are the big thing. And we realized, we really haven't talked about mites that much this year. And I don't know about your bees, but mine have not been practicing social distancing. And so mites are just as big a problem this year as they have been previous years. Who here has treated for mites at least once this year? Okay. Who's treated more than once this year? Okay. Fair. I don't know. How many mites you got? Who here? Who's done mite counts? Ooh, fewer numbers. Okay. All right. Well, I've had people ask me, hey, we're heading into Halloween. Is it too late to treat for mites? And the answer is no. Okay. Is it the optimum time of year to treat for mites? No, it's not. Probably, fall treatments, we should have been probably looking at August, somewhere in August, to be getting our fall mite treatments on. That's when the bees are being born that are going to raise the bees that are going to be living through the winter. They're going to be raising our winter bees. And so if we want healthy winter bees, if we want to have good success over wintering, the most important thing we can do is to send those bees into the winter in good condition with a low mite load and a low virus load that's associated with a mite infestation. However, if you didn't get a fall treatment on, it's better to do it now than to not do it at all. I'm actually in the process right now of just sort of taking out some of my fall treatments. But if you haven't treated yet, it's getting cool enough now that some of the treatments that don't work as well in the summer are better options right now. One of the formic acid treatments, Formic Pro or Mite Away Quick Strips, that are sometimes kind of hard to use in the summertime. They can be used in the fall quite easily. Apivar is good any time of the year. I know Dave here is a big fan of the oxalic acid dribble, and especially as we get a little bit later into the fall, you can get much better success with oxalic acid dribble because it's only going to treat the phoretic mites. It's only going to treat the mites that are not under the cappings. So the fewer brood you have in the hive, the better oxalic acid is going to work for you. But a number of people have found in some studies that fall immigration of mites into hives is possibly a much more significant factor than we had previously thought. It was previously thought that if you got your hive good and clean in the springtime, you make it through the summer, you put get a treatment in right after you pull supers, you're good to go for the winter. And what they found in some studies is that they're seeing a big spike in mites coming into hives late in the season, like this time of year. Anybody have an idea why that would be? Because your neighbor's bees, because your neighbor who didn't treat his bees have finally crashed. His bees got through the end of the season, and this is when an untreated hive, when their mite load would be at the highest. And if you remember from some discussions we've had here before, that mite growth is exponential. And so this time of year is when that mite count in an untreated hive is going to be at its highest, and this is when a hive is going to crash. And when that hive crashes, the bees that can are going to flee, and they're going to flee with their mites, and they're going to look for a new place to live, and that's going to be your hive. Okay? So treating this late in the season can be really important, but probably the biggest thing would be if you haven't done it all year, do a mite count. At least know what you're going into the winter with. Now, I'm not saying that if you find a hive that's got a mite count of 15 per 100, that treating them is going to get them through the winter. That might be a lost cause. But if you have a hive that's got a moderate to low mite load, treating them right now might make a difference. So if you're not familiar with how to do a mite count, there is great information on the internet. It's one of the few things I would actually send you to YouTube for. One of the few beekeeping things that you can find good information on is look up how to do a mite count, either an alcohol wash or a sugar shake. They can both be used effectively. But do a count on one or more of your hives, and if it's appropriate and if you need to, then get a mite treatment on. If you haven't treated this summer, or if you only treated very early in the season, I would strongly suggest that you consider getting a mite treatment in yet before the season's over. So any thoughts or concerns on mites as we go into winter? Oof. Crickets. Okay. All right. That's the end of the program for today, so we're going to finish up with our raffle.
Everybody loves somebody sometime. Oh, that's that. I thought that's why you were giving me that. I need someone who hasn't. I don't know. Her hands are sticky. Sticky in two ways. One, she's a big from my family.
There you go.
All right.
Oh.
I might need her though. Come here, Catherine.
You want to borrow my glasses? Old man.
No, I got it. My arms are long. 681. What's the last one? 681-6906. Bingo. Okay. Double check that, Catherine. Because, you know, I don't know this guy. You got your choice? All right. That was quick. Put it right here so I can keep them both together. Thank you. Yeah, just do, are they all 681s? Come on, just pick one. Just pick one above your head. Just choose one. All right. 884. 884. Look at that. She bought a few. Look at that. Let me check that. Check it.
84, right?
884. Put it right here. All right. Go ahead. Choose one. Just the last 4 digits. 6909. 6909. 6909. Bingo. All right, come up there, choose your. Double check that chicken, because she was a presenter. You don't know this. Gotta check those. I'm tough with the raffle, guys. Come on. Catherine, turn around. Wait. You're not paying attention. You're not paying attention. Put it back in there. Go. Come on. 6895. Bingo. All right, put those.
Someone double check it.
Read that for me, make sure it's right.
Do I really need this? All right, well, let's do, Oh, by the way, the sugar board is available too, definitely. The big, last 4 digits. 689. Small, medium, and large, that's it. Take one.